Hey everybody, John here from the Sports Department, and we're going to go over the $500 LPL season-long draft from my point of view. So when I make these videos, I don't comment on anybody else's picks. If I think something is interesting or denotes a strategy, then maybe I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to talk about whether I think someone drafted good or bad. If I'm completely honest with you, it's my second season-long League of Legends draft anyway, so it's not like I'm any sort of authority to be telling everybody what's good and bad. It's not like I went and did like extensive research in the off season. I have a general strategy that I think was good, or that I think could have been good, and I tried to stick with it. But it's not like I say that I think that I'm 100% know what I'm doing or whatever, and can tell all these people how to do their shit. So we're in the $500 draft. We get the fourth pick. I will kind of go over the strategies that I thought were relevant. Last year, if anybody watched my video of my breakdown of my $100 LEC LCS last year, I was pretty... I don't know why I can't think of this word off the top of my head. I wanted a support as my first pick last year. Specifically, I wanted Mickey X if I could get him, because Mickey X's support numbers are just so much better than other people at his position. I still think that holds true for me to some degree. I don't necessarily think it has to be support, but I was definitely coming in with the idea that I wanted to take a support, a jungle, or a top laner as my first pick. I wanted to get one of those positions out of the way. I think, if you end up with somebody like Captain or Forge or Fofo, those are like not exciting players that you'd be like dying to have on your team, or Icon. Those are not exciting players that you'd be excited to have on your team, but if those guys get wins, they're going to score well. Whereas, I think the difference between good supports and bad supports, good top laners and bad top laners, and good junglers and bad junglers when it comes to scoring is really big. I think you have some top laners that just, are rarely above 20 points because they play a lot of split pushing, or they're just they don't play the right kind of champions. They're low kill participation guys, and I think the same comes for supports. A lot of the supports in the league are very low kill participation supports. So I do think it's important, whereas I think mids and AD carries just always score points. So, if they're winning. So I wanted to focus on those three positions first, top, jungle, and support. I wasn't sure exactly which player I wanted. Admittedly, if I had picked first, I think I still would have taken Knight, who does end up being the first pick in the draft. I'll just do that right now. Knight was the first pick by our qualifier from my giveaway on Twitter at the J Yanceyville. It's actually J Creed now, but he takes Knight. I think I still would have taken Knight if I had the very first pick in the draft. The best player on the best team who just always scores points makes a lot of sense to me. He's a high-scoring mid laner. He's on the team who's likely to win the most games. I wouldn't be as excited about Zhuo as I think some people were. I don't know that we know enough about him, and Yuyanja was not an insanely high-scoring support. He was still solid, but if it ends up being Yuyanja for some of the season, it might not be as good as taking a better support on one of the other top teams. And I definitely was not that excited about Karsa. Karsa also was not like an insanely high-scoring jungler, considering the team that he's on. Now, keep in mind, winning games is more important than being a good scorer. So if you think top esports is going to win 2 or 3 more games than anybody else, then you should just be taking any top esports player. But I'm not even 100% convinced that they're going to be that good. So there's some other players I might have taken around this second pick area, but I think first pick was definitely, I would have been fine taking Knight. I had another big strategy coming in that you'll see foiled. But I have WE rated extremely highly. If you guys watched my power rankings video, I have WE as the second team on my list, power ranked second. And I think there's an argument they could be as bad as 6th. But I thought that I would be way higher on them than other people. And so my thought was, if the consensus best teams are going to be top esports, JDG, maybe FPX, IG, those types of teams, RNG maybe, let me go ahead and get a couple players from those teams, and then hopefully when round 3 or 4 rolls around, WE will still be out there, and I can just snap up some WE players in round 3 or 4. I really didn't think that other people would be that high on them, and so I was going to keep an eye out. If it looked like things were getting like weak at a certain position, maybe I would step up in round 2 or 3 and take a WE player. But I thought maybe I could wait until like round 3 or 4 to try to pick them up, and so that was a big part of my strategy coming in, was just like grab a couple guys from these other top teams, and then try to snipe into a couple WE guys in like round 3 or 4 and try to build like a super squad here. But let's start the draft off. So pick 1 goes Knight, pick 2 goes Jackeylove, which I think makes a lot of sense. Similar to Knight, Top Esports does play around the bottom lane a decent amount, so Jackie should get some involvement. You'd think maybe the same kind of thing for Zhuo. I can't be as confident on Zhuo, but I'm pretty confident on the Jackeylove side. Zhuo does go 3rd. So then these 3 are gone, and it comes to me, and now I have a choice. I can take Karsa or 369, which I think makes some sense. I mean, I think Top Esports is the #1 power rank team for most people. I do think that 369 and Karsa don't necessarily compare that favorably scoring-wise to some other players on the other top teams, assuming that the teams win the same number of games. So I was a little hesitant on whether I would want to go somewhere else, or if I wanted to take a player from a position that was already taken, and maybe I would get lucky, like in one of the other drafts, or actually was it this one? It was this one. 369 doesn't get taken until pick 16. So like, and I kind of thought that was a possibility, that we might not see 369 until a little bit later, and maybe I would get the option to decide if I wanted to take him with my second pick. Oh wait, I better get these in the right positions here. So I had a choice. I can take Karsa. The only picks I'm really considering here are Karsa and 369, which I both think are reasonable, or I can go to another team. And like I said, I power ranked WE at 2nd. So I could take WE players here, but I just don't think other people are high on them at all. So I'm going to go to the next best team that I think other people will compete with to see if there's anybody there, and that's JDG is right up there for me. And JDG has 2 players that play positions where they have a player that's significantly better than everybody else, like most other people in the league. Actually, they have 3. Lvmao scores way better than most other supports. Zoom scores way better than most other tops, and Kanavi scores better than other junglers for the most part in wins. So if I assume that JDG is also going to be pretty good, but that Lvmao, I can't take Zhuo anyway, so maybe I could get Lvmao or Zoom versus 369. If I think JDG is going to win the same number of games as TES, then Zoom might be a superior pick. In the end, Lvmao is one of my favorite players. Zhuo's already gone, so already we're kind of, if you look at like the premium support pool, you could argue maybe PP God, Lvmao, maybe Baolan, maybe Crisp, maybe Mako. So just not that many great supports out there. Ming can be a kind of low-scoring support, even though I think he's a great player. The support pool, even with just Zhuo gone, has already kind of, like, Hong is not somebody I want at all. Even Mark from BLG is not somebody I'm really excited about as a specific player. So the support pool, even with just Zhuo gone, feels a little pinched. I end up taking Lvmao, and we move to the next pick. So then Bronzesword takes Nuguri. AV2AG takes Kanavi. King of Esports takes Karsa. And Emmerich on the wheel completely throws me and takes Beishang and Jumeng. So he just doubles up on WE. So this just completely throws me off here. These are literally the 2 guys on this team that I specifically wanted to pick up later. The third one is missing, but I've now taken Lvmao, so now missing is not as relevant to me anymore. And I just feel terrible in this position. Like, this is not a spot I want to be in at all. It goes back to King of Esports. He takes Doinb, and there's something I'll talk about in just a minute when it gets back to my pick about that pick. Rookie goes next. Bronzesword takes LWX. And we go back to me in the middle here. So at this point, the thing that I was going to talk about actually is about the Nuguri LWX lineup, and also is relevant to my lineups here. And that is whether or not you should be stacking in season long. Like, should you be trying to get 3, 4, 5 players from one team? Well, I mean, I guess it kind of depends how good that team is. If it's a team that's projected to go like 14-2 on the season, then yeah, it's pretty good, but it causes you a problem as well, which is like playoffs is just two games, or 2 matches. And if you're playing with a team that has 4 guys from one team on it, you can just like lose your playoff match automatically if that team loses their game that week. And that's worrisome. I'm not necessarily sure that I think that stacking is super optimal, but it does make your other decisions a lot easier. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as I go further in the draft. But yeah, I'm not 100% convinced that stacking is a thing. It's definitely high ceiling, low variance. I mean, if you stack a team heavily and they win their 2 matches in those 2 weeks and they have bloody matches, then it's going to be tough for anybody to beat you, even if they have a better team than you, or whatever. So there's an argument for it, but it's kind of an interesting question of whether or not that's even a good thing to be doing. Overall, it's definitely going to up your consistency, but I'm not sure that it lowers. I guess it ups your ceiling and your floor, not your consistency. On weeks where your team does well, you're going to crush, and on weeks where they do poorly, you're probably going to get crushed. So I'm not necessarily sure it's even good. But when it gets back to me here, I basically only have 2 choices in my mind. Well, maybe I shouldn't have. I'll talk about where I think this pick might have been a mistake. Oh, Knight's in the wrong spot. So, in my mind when I was making this pick, I thought to myself, I have 2 options. I can either take 369, who's still on the board, and is just crazy value at this pick, or I can take Zoom, and I've kind of already committed to the idea that maybe JDG will be as good as TES by taking Lvmao when I could have taken Karsa or 369 before. So in the end, I end up taking Zoom. I will say, I think this might have been a mistake. And the reason I think this might have been a mistake was, behind me, there's 3 junglers already taken. There's only 1 top laner taken. And none of these guys have junglers. So if I'm sending it back to these 3 guys, there's a pretty good chance that one of them is going to end up taking a jungler in here, either the first time it goes to them or the second time. And the jungle pool's pretty pinched already, with Kanavi, Karsa, and Beishang all gone. I mean, who are we excited about in the jungle, really? I guess there's some. Meteor, Jiejie, Tian, Zun, any of those feel alright. Wei from RNG. But there's not a ton of people you're really excited about left here, and the highest quality jungle targets are gone already. So maybe this would have been a spot to pick up a jungler, because it's kind of scary that when it goes through here, a jungler might get taken, whereas there's only 1 top laner gone, so even if a couple of these guys took top laners, the pool would only be as pinched as jungle already is. So maybe there's an argument that I should have just taken a jungler here. If I was going to take a jungler in this spot, I mean, the pool's already so pinched. If I was going to take a jungler, it probably would be Tian. I don't think I would risk Jun. I think I'd rather take Tian than Jun. You could maybe risk it on Jiejie or Wei. But either way, I'm not 100% sure this Zoom pick was correct, but I decided to go with the stacking. I said, I've already got Lvmao. Let's just kind of bet that JDG is going to be a good team here, and we pick up Zoom. When it goes over to TES Mitch, he takes Xiye, a.k.a. Yagao, whoever plays mid for JDG. It goes back to Brown Dog, and he takes 369, so finally we get 369 out of the picture. Oh, wrong position. I keep just putting them in random spots. And then when we go back to the wheel for J. Creed, he takes Zun and Baolan. So, Zun, Baolan. And now our pool continues to be pinched here as it goes back to Brown Dog. He takes SOFM. And next is Bin from Sunning. So now it comes back to me again, and I want to look around and see what I can do. The obvious thing that stands out, and it's going to be relevant to my pick, but the thing that stands out is that Loken is still on the board. So we already have 2 JDG players. We're kind of already betting on them to be good to some degree or another, and their AD carry is still in the pool. The only question with this, and once again, I'm not confident that this was a good pick, the only thing with that is the AD carry pool, there's only 3 people gone from it, whereas in the mid pool there's 4. I am going to get another pick after these people pick, and 2 of them already have 80 carries. So unless Loken gets picked up here or here, I might be able to get him back. But it does seem a little bit risky. He seems by far to be one of the best options. Aiming's a decent option. I think Hope's a good option. You could go down and get Gala maybe. But Loken is definitely Iboy. But Loken is definitely like, a top 3 or 4, guaranteed top 3 or 4. And I think the best 80 carry left in the pool, positionally, as far as like what team they're on and how good they are. So I just decided to commit to the strategy, and I take Loken at 80 carry, and now we have 3 JDG players on the squad. It goes over to Brown Dog and Bronze Sword. He takes Crisp, continuing a similar strategy. He has the same 3 positions from the same team that I do. So we're kind of mirroring each other, and we both are missing jungle and mid at the moment. A little bit worrisome. Then the Shy gets taken. Over to King of Esports, who takes Iboy. And Emmerich on the wheel takes Shanks to complete his 3-man WE stack. But then this was an interesting pick, and I should have almost had him on just to explain why he decided to go with this pick. But he takes Xiaohu as his next pick. And I'm not saying that like it's bad. I think the RNG mid lane is a great spot to have. I'm interested that he took a second mid laner before taking a support or top laner. It seems like he could take Missing or Breathe in that spot if he's a big fan of the stacking. Maybe he didn't want to all in on one team, which I think is reasonable, a reasonable thought. I do think it's an interesting pick. And I'd be kind of interested exactly why he did it, because I'm always open to like what other people's strategies are. Because like I said, I don't think I'm some sort of superstar when it comes to season long, and I'm interested as to why. I think it could have had to do with just not being sure if Shanks was going to end up being any good. It is kind of a scary pick. Like, even if you think WE is going to be good, Shanks is the scary part of the roster. So maybe you just thought, I really am going to need a good backup if I take Shanks, and so let me go ahead and just knock it out, because there's the mid pool is getting pretty weak around here. There's only a couple decent options left. So yeah, maybe he's just thinking he needs a good backup for Shanks. I mean, it makes sense to me. Then it goes back to King of Esports, who takes Flandre to fill in his top lane. AV2AGH takes Missing. Am I right about that? Yes, he takes Missing. And then when he gets back to Bronze Sword, he takes Tian, near completing his FPX stack. He's missing only Doinb, who got taken by King of Esports earlier. So now it comes to me. I wasn't really considering taking a backup, so I had to just look at the jungle and mid pools. There are 5 mids missing. There are 6 jungles missing. So let's look at our options. In the jungle, Meteor, JDG, and Wei are really the only 3 that are looking really exciting to me. I'm not very high on Rare Atom or Victory 5. Some other people are. If you were, I wouldn't blame you in trying to take Aix or Wei as an option as well. But for me, it was pretty much Wei, JDG, and Meteor if I was going to take a jungler. In the mid lane, Zeka, Scout. You can take Angel. He is on Suning, who's probably going to be at least decent. And then Fofo, who's on Rare Atom. Like I said, I'm a little bit lower on Rare Atom than a lot of other people. So for me, when just looking at the number of players left that are good, I actually think there's some more mids that I'm interested in than junglers. But maybe the most important part is I think I'm only going to lose one of either. Like when I pass it over. So I know that if I take, let's say I take Wei here, I'm only going to lose one of these mids. Brown Dog might take a mid, but that's probably the only person I'm going to lose from the mid lane. So I can still get my second pick at the other position. There's enough decent people left that I think it's not that stressed who you take. I ended up going with Scout for EDG. I like the EDG's addition to Flandre. I think they have some good upside this season, no matter which one of their 80 carries plays. They're both pretty good players. So I go ahead and take Scout. It goes over to Mitch, who takes Hope. Then over to Brown Dog, who takes Mole. Oop. Can't remember who his jungler is now. SOFM. So that's the one mid laner I would have lost, and it wasn't someone I was considering really. So that's fine. That doesn't. Now we would have gotten our pick of the litter in mid anyway. It goes over to J Creed, who picks up Wink and Breathe. And it kind of sucks that Breathe went here. I was kind of hoping he would hold off. I like him a lot. I would have loved to get him on the bench to back up Zoom. But I am going to make a decision in a minute that's going to alter how I would feel about that. So he takes Wink and Breathe. Where did I mess something up? Oh, he takes Wink and Baolan. My bad. Oh, he took Baolan. I've definitely messed some stuff up here. J Creed has Baolan. Not Brown Dog. And then he does take Breathe here. Sorry. So now he's completed his lineup, and it's going back to Brown Dog, who's going to complete his lineup. And he does with PP God. So he's obviously pretty high on victory 5. He takes the PP God there. It gets to Mitch, and I'm going to lose a jungler here pretty much for sure. And I do, but I lose Meteor. So now back on me to round out my lineup. I'm only really considering a jungler. I want to fill out my lineup now and get somebody who I think is going to get a lot of wins at all my main positions. Going with the same people I talked about before, my choice really comes down to Wei and Jiejie. And so I come down to the same conversation I was having earlier about whether we want to stack or don't want to stack. And I decided that I had a good way to deal with stacking, or at least a way that I thought would be efficient to deal with stacking. Given that, I decided to go with Jiejie, because I think it makes it easier to make my next couple picks and have them work out well. So I go with Jiejie, fill out the roster there. We pass it over to Bronze Sword. He takes Forge to complete his lineup. It goes over to AB2AG, who takes Gala from RNG, completing his lineup. King of Esports takes Hong from Rare Atom. And back over to Emmerich, he picks up Cube and Ming. So Ming goes here, Cube goes here, and he completes his lineup. And I know that Emmerich is high on Rare Atom, so he got himself Cube still, so it didn't hurt him to take that Xiaohu pick. He still got somebody he would be excited about, and Ming would be pretty exciting as well. So it all works out for him. We go back to King of Esports. He takes Jin Zhao, who kind of... crap. Jin Zhao in many ways is just Huanfeng, because that's who it's going to probably be for the majority of the season. Aiming gets picked up next, a great backup for your AD carry. Bronze Sword goes ahead and takes Zhuoji, also a high upside guy for the bench. Now it comes back to me, and I have my decision. So my thought process, now that I have 3 JDG and 2 EDG, I think to myself, probably any weeks that JDG loses, I'm going to be in trouble. It's going to be hard for me to win, with my first 3 picks all being JDG players. If they lose, I think I'm just going to lose. So I thought that the better way to hedge this, I thought for my last 3 picks I had to do one of 2 things. Either take a top AD carry and support, and try to make it so that when JDG loses, I still have my EDG mini core, and then I have 3 backups for my JDG guys, or take 3 mid and jungles and try to make it so that when EDG loses, I have that covered, and my JDG stack is my core. And obviously, I think JDG is going to be better than EDG, so it made more sense to back up my EDG players. So when it comes to my next pick here, I take a guy that I was really excited to get at this level, which is Wei. Gelati's model had Wei as like among, if not the best jungler in the LPL last year, just not playing with a team where it was incredibly efficient to be that. But either way, on RNG now, with a good lineup, this felt like a slam dunk backup for GG. It feels like it's going to be rare that both of these guys have a bad game in the same week, given what I think about those 2 teams. and those two players. So that was a really exciting pickup for me. Then it goes over to Mitch, who takes the long G. Then it goes over to Brown Dog, who takes On from Suning. Then it goes over to J Creed, who takes Xiaobai. And Tarzan, pinching a high ceiling jungler that I might have considered. Back to Brown Dog, who takes Wei Wei. Back to Mitch, who takes Haro. This is a very high ceiling jungler. I like that backup as well. Both those guys are really, really high ceiling when they win. Wei Wei is going to be more consistent than these two, I think, but those two are both really high ceiling. And then it comes back to me, and I have an option. So I'm only taking junglers or mids as my backups. Left in the jungle pool, we have Hacker, who I'm not considering, Flora, who I'm not considering, Aki, who I'm not considering. Zhao Peng and Aix, I'd both be willing to consider to some degree or another. I think both those guys are pretty solid players, and TT and Rare Atom both have a chance to have a decent season. In the mid lane, Fofo and Captain from those teams. Not really excited about anybody up here except maybe Zeka. The problem with Zeka is he was very bad as a scorer, and BLG is kind of variant. They could be really good this year, and they might be really bad. But even if they're good, I'm not necessarily sure I trust his scoring. And then the standout pick there is Angel. He's the only player left from Suning. Some chance that Suning just comes in and is a great team this season, even though I'm kind of not rating them highly. It seemed too late for him to still be on the board, honestly. So I just snatched him up right there, even though I'm not bullish on Suning. I just felt too late to still have the mid laner from Suning on the board. So I went ahead and took Angel. It goes over to Bronze Sword. He takes Uniboy from LGD. Oh no. I can misclick like 10 times in this video. Mark from BLG goes. And then the king of esports picks up Fofo from Rare Atom. Emmerich on the wheel takes Mako. And Ix. When it goes back to king of esports, he takes Biubiu from BLG. AVG takes Zeka to completely clear BLG off the board. And then Bronzesword takes Flora, the jungler from LGD. And it comes back to me. I'm still looking to take a mid or a jungler. I have to ask myself which of these backups I'm more confident in, because whichever one I'm least confident in, I want another backup for. I just talked a minute ago about how I have a really hard time seeing Wei and Jiejie both having a bad week, so I think maybe my jungle is locked up. Like, I think that's enough backup for Jiejie. RNG should win a fair few games. Wei should score very well when they win. And both these guys are kind of high floor junglers anyway. So I feel like I'm pretty backed up there. Scout, I could see having horrendous weeks. And Angel, I don't know how bullish I am on Suning. Like I said, I'm not necessarily that bullish on them. So it's pretty clear to me I'm going to take a mid, another mid, to have a third one to back up Scout and Angel. I'm not considering Insulator, and I'm not considering Wooming at all. I think those teams are just not very good, and I don't trust either of those players. So it's between Icon and Captain for me. And I have a tough decision here. Because Icon, I think, is really high ceiling. Like, I've talked about it. Anybody who's followed my content for a while knows I thought he was an absolute stud like a year ago. And then he had a really bad year this last year. So the question is, now that he has a new team, he's got Tarzan on his team, is he going to step up and go big? I don't know, but Icon definitely is a choice. The other choice is Captain, and the thing with Captain is there is no TT players drafted in this draft so far. And I actually think TT's pretty good. Zhao Peng, I think, was a pretty good jungler. Captain is the top prospect in the entire LPL. And then Sam D and Teen, I actually think Teen is a very good player. So Sam D and Teen is a pretty strong bottom lane. You got 4 guys there who I think are actually pretty strong, and Shalitzi, who I do not like, but he's the only weak link on this squad. So this is a team I don't think is bad, and nobody has taken a single player from them. So in the end, I decided for my smart last pick, I will take Captain instead of going with my my home base of Icon, somebody that I'm well known to like. That maybe having somebody on TT, if they're a bust-out team this season, captain, it would be nice for me to be the only person that has a TT player in the league. If EDG fails, I think TT has some chance of being very good this year, and captain could be an absolute stud. So after I take that, the draft finishes with Rat for Mitch. Icon gets taken by Brown Dog, and the final pick of the draft is Light from LNG. As far as people that are remaining, I'm a little bit surprised Y4 doesn't go. I could see Y4 going in that Rat spot if you're looking for an AD carry there, and I could even see Y4 going in that Light spot, although I do think that LNG has a really, really high ceiling. So I can understand... excuse me. So I can understand why you would take Light. But I'm a little bit surprised to see Y4 left on the board at the end. It feels like he could have found a spot in somebody's lineup and been pretty good. And I'm a little bit surprised that none of the TT players ended up being drafted, because I think that team actually could be pretty good. I'm not surprised that we didn't see anyone taken from OMG. I'm not surprised we only saw one person taken from E-Star, although, you know, Xiaohu, Rat, it's not the worst bottom lane. That hacker just scares everybody away. So that's how the draft ended up. That's kind of what I was thinking about. Like I said, I don't necessarily think I'm like a super good season-long drafter. It's just what I was thinking. If I could go back and do it again, maybe I would diversify my JDG a little bit and maybe not take Zoom and take like 369 or something instead and end up with a less stacked team. But like I said, stacking might actually be the optimal thing to do. I'm not sure. It just strikes me that maybe it isn't in season long, because when you get to the playoffs, it's so important to get a win in those 2 weeks, and just having one team in the LPL lose to cause your entire team to fail seems like really sketchy. But if they're a really good team, I'll tell you this, I definitely would not have wanted 3 players from a mediocre team. Like, I wouldn't have wanted 3 players from Suning, I don't think. I'm the one that's rating Suning that way, though, so don't, if other people think Suning is going to be better, then it's not a mistake for them. But for me, I don't think I would want 3 Suning. I don't think I would want 3, like, Rare Atom or 3 Victory 5. For me, if I was going to have 3 players, I would want them from one team. I would want them to be from Top Esports, WE, JDG, maybe IG, maybe EDG, maybe RNG. And even RNG starts to feel a little bit sketchy to me, and even IG starts to feel a little sketchy to me. But for me, I think I would only be willing to have 3 players from the same team if if the team that those 3 players are from is very, very good. And that's kind of my thought process on it. So that was what I ended up with. Those are the rosters for the $500 LPL. My final roster is Zoom, Loken, and Lvmao from JDG, GG and Scout from EDG, and then on the bench, Wei from RNG, Angel from Suning, and Captain from TT. And we'll see how that all turns out in the end. I think I'm pretty happy with my lineup. I think it's very easy for my lineup to fail. If JDG just has a mediocre split, I'm in a lot of trouble. I pretty much have to rely on them having a very large first season. But as long as their spring is good, I like the way that I've set the rest of everything up. I think EDG is a very good team, and I have 2 players from them. And if they fail, I think Wei, Angel, and Captain is a good, solid core of backups. So I think I did well, and I feel good about my lineup. We'll see how it turns out in the end. If you did drafts, man, feel free to tell me what you were thinking or your strategy. I love hearing what other people were thinking, because I'm just one guy with my strategy, and I'm not sure my strategy is correct, but that's what I was thinking. So appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you later, and have a good rest of the day.